Okay, so the agenda for today, we're going to have this welcome, which I'm going through. We'll give a couple of updates and some announcements as well. And then what you've all been waiting for is the business insight. So we've got Douglas Pharmaceuticals on the call today. So really looking forward to running through that. We'll also have a question and answer. So stay on for that and make sure you're noting down your questions or sending them through. Then we're going to have a Smartsheet 10,000 feet or resource management demonstration as well. And then we'll have a question and answer post this and then close the group. So looking forward to going through that. So I'll just move to the next slide. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Engage is our flagship event. So we've got that coming up on October 19th. Now, it is going to be recorded and will be on the US time zone this round. So unless you're wanting to get up quite early, what we'd recommend is that you sign up and then watch the content on demand. And this will be available until the end of November. So absolutely recommend that. It's going to have a lot of information about some of our clients who are doing lots of interesting things, as well as the latest in product updates as well. So plenty of good content there. So just make sure you do register for access. And we'll drop the link into the chat as well, just around the event page. Okay, so moving on. So we also have a new webinar series. So for those of you who are not familiar, we do have a number of these to make sure that we're engaging everyone and giving you lots of information. So this will be on Smartsheet Advanced. So there's new webinars every single month, so you can check those out. And the next one is on the 30th of September. So definitely a good one to check out. That will be around the Jira connector and helping teams to basically keep connected across different applications. Now, if you're new to Smartsheet or experienced Can-Do, we do have a variety of topics in live Q&A. So feel free to reach out for more information or attend these to get that content. We've got lots of good feedback that they're quite valuable. So hopefully you find that as well. Okay, and on to our next slide. Okay, so look, an introduction to Smartsheet Professional Services, for those of you who haven't heard about it. So we actually have an in-house team of experts that can help with either simple configuration, depending on what your needs might be, or through to transformational needs, so kind of at the bigger end of that scale. So we'll just get the next click and we'll bring up some information. Okay, so we have training and enablement. So this is to empower your teams, make sure they've got the right knowledge. We've actually recently launched Smartsheet University. So it's self-paced, there's e-learning, instructor-led or on-site as well, post obviously the COVID lockdown being sorted out, and also a number of certifications. So I highly recommend this. We get, again, really good feedback, although I am biased. So please do make sure that you check that out if you're interested. And the next click, please. Okay, so we also have a number of prescriptive solutions. So these are basically defined on us understanding, what are the biggest needs and areas of opportunities for our customers. So we've created a selection of options, which you'll work with your account team to go through, and they'll basically detail what the benefits are based on your particular needs. So again, really, really valuable. A lot of customers love these. So something to reach out about if you'd like more information. And then we'll just click through to the last one. Okay, so we also have custom solutions. So look, these are for those looking to perhaps bring in services to support across maybe a number of different business functions, or to help solve for a less defined process where you want to use the tool, maybe look at how you're using other tools as well. So we bring in our best practice. We work with clients globally. So we've got a European office as well as all across the US and now obviously Asia Pacific. The team is local. There's discovery workshops, which is a deeper dive into understanding your business. We've also got custom solutions, which will be basically scoped out based on your needs. And change management. So if you need support, you maybe don't have the internal function or would love to get some support getting user uptake and doing that usual review process, we do have that capacity as well. And then we've also got retainer as an option. So if you want someone on tap to be available as support, that's an option. And then custom APIs if there's not an existing application. So look, a little bit of an intro for those who didn't know, but that is the high level overview of our professional services team. So we'll just click through to the next slide, please. Okay, so look, our special guest today, we've got Michael Isaac on the call from Douglas Pharmaceuticals. So he is the General Manager of Program Delivery, and we're really excited to have him on board. So Michael will be talking about how his company is using Smartsheet. I'm sure you'll find it quite interesting. It's a really great example, and how he's also using the resource management or 10,000 foot tool as well. So he's building rockstar teams, as we like to call them, and keeping his schedules and budgets on track, and also making sure that he's able to confidently do forecasting. So he'll speak more to that. So Michael, it's absolutely wonderful to have you here. And we're really looking forward to hearing a little bit more from you shortly. And look, we've also got Catherine Veal from the services team. She's a solution implementation manager, so we'll be available for the Q&A as well. Kathy Sparks, who many of you might know, is a customer success manager, and again, fantastic, does a lot of these calls. And we also have Tina Gassane, who's a commercial sales engineer, and will be assisting to demonstrate the 10,000 foot tool at the end here as well. So look, should hopefully be a lot of great content for you today. So look, as I said, there will be Q&A portions per the agenda. So do make sure you're using the panel to pop those questions through. I can already see there's quite a few coming through. Now, look, without further ado, I think let's get into what you all came here for. And I'm going to hand over to Michael to kick off his presentation. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Emily. It's great being here, guys. I hope you're all keeping well and safe. I'll just share my screen, and hopefully now you could see my screen. Right, so I'll give you a quick intro just to help you understand our journey with Smartsheet so far, and how we have used Smartsheet and 10,000 feet to help us manage our project and project portfolio in the resource management, especially at a project portfolio level. So Douglas Pharmaceuticals is a Kiwi success story. The company has been established in 1967, and we're specialized in development, production, and everything related to pharmaceuticals and generics manufacturing. Douglas has about 600 employees in New Zealand, and we also have a facility in Fiji that employs around 120 team members there. We also have got some facilities in the US, and we have some existence in Australia as well. Our main markets are actually the US and Europe. We also have some market existence in the Middle East and Emirates, some in Asia and China, and of course in Australia. And we've got a lot of our products has been marketed, whether along the generics or the consumables in New Zealand. Move on. So to give you the background, some background information about our project ecosystem, our project portfolio is constituted of about 250 projects. We have at any point, of course, we have tens of projects being added every week, and few of them are getting put on hold and getting completed. So on average, we have about 250 projects in our pipeline at any point of time. We've also have at any point of time almost 100 active projects. Our teams across the different areas of the business would be working on product lifecycle projects, capital investment, equipment upgrades, equipment replacement, some digital projects, continuous improvement, those green belt and black belt projects around Lean or Six Sigma, and as well as compliance and risk mitigation ones. So it's quite a diverse portfolio of projects. And this, to enable the company achieving the benefits of those projects, of course, we have access to a vast amount of resources within the organization. We have like contractors in and out. So our teams of full-time project managers are 10 to 20 at any point of time, but we also have a lot of our functional contributors and other employees working within different functions, wearing the hat of a project manager at some point of time. So we have 40 plus of those that would be, say, spending 20 or 30% of their time as a project manager, but also they have another functional role that they're performing. We have access to about 600 employees, and when we put together some calculations, we found that on average, we have access, or we have almost 130 FTE, full-time equivalent, working on projects at any point of time. So out of the 600 employees, as they're juggling business as usual, their functional activities and project activities, we have this 130 full-time equivalent. And we classify ourselves as a weak matrix organization. We still have a very profound functional hierarchy and functional reporting system, but we also have the project managers and some good access to those resources. But the primary function of a lot of the employees working in the organization is very functional, is very production related or core business related. So that's a quick idea of the ecosystem. I know I might get one or two questions about this later on. Our journey in Smartsheet, we've started using Smartsheet as early as 2019, and we used it back then. We started adopting it as our project management tool, our project toolkit. I'll show you some examples of how this looks like. And then we started experimenting with the legacy resource management tools in Smartsheet, trying to work out at single points of time how our demand for resources stacks versus the capacity of the resources we have across the business. But then our needs, and we started realizing we really need something better and something that's going to be more comprehensive. That is the time we started getting exposed to 10,000 feet or resources for Smartsheet. We had a project team. We put a very capable consultant and project manager in place to lead our team. And at that point of time, the idea was to build a proof of concept around that, around one resource pool or just one team, implement 10,000 feet, and then trial and see how it works for us. At this point, we engaged Smartsheet professional services to help us build that proof of concept. And we added a few features to it along the way, like time logging, instead of using other means of timesheets. And that was successful. We took it back to the business through a business case. We got approval, and we started an iterative process of rolling out the whole platform to other teams. And we're still rolling those out. We've covered a few teams so far, and we have overall about 16 teams that we're rolling this out to. That's a high level view of the journey for us. Just to give you an idea of why Smartsheet and why we had the need. Basically, we didn't have a lot of visibility of which resources are available when. We used to do this once in time or one point of time, trying to look at all of our projects, look at all our resources, and try to see where the constraints, the bottlenecks are, but that becomes obsolete the next day or the next week or the next month. We didn't have a real life system or real life mechanism to show us that, as well as, of course, the amount of resources and capabilities that are needed by our project demand. Didn't have a medium or long-term resource utilization visibility, as well as once we even have this visibility and we have those quotes from our resource managers about the work needed for projects, we didn't have a mechanism to compare those quotes or estimates with what's actually being spent on projects, because the timesheet systems were basically disjointed from that whole process. And this is all looking at resources from a project perspective. We wanted to include business as usual in the mix, because as I've explained, it's a weak matrix organization where most of the project resources are shared between projects and functional activities. So we had to cover both bases to make sure that we've got full control and full visibility of our resources. Because of how the teams were made, and we had wide access, and we're lucky to have a lot of support from different functions with the project management, we needed the process to be consistent, in the tools to be, and having roll out those tools across the organization. We also had different types of sizes of projects. We had projects that went up to $50 million, and included a lot of construction projects with complex team structures, but also we have simple projects, say continuous improvement projects, or some process engineering exercises that possibly costed us 20, 30 grants, but they were a project that needed to be managed and governed. So it's a really diverse set of projects. We also had a mixed PM capability. Some of them were certified, they've got lots of experience, and some of them were just normal or functional people that would be interested in managing projects and getting small projects across the line. So we had a large base of users with really diverse interaction levels as well on the systems, between project managers, different roles between those projects, and the resources that just needed to go on our systems and just put the status of the tasks or update the task status. To give you some visual, I mean, we have teams, let's say, have team A, B, C. Each team, they've got some project deliverables that they have to deliver. They've got also some business as usual and functional deliverables and KPIs they're looking after. But at the same time, we have the project structure with deliverables that are needed from across different systems, different teams. And we had to work out through this matrix of demand and capacity, where our bottlenecks are and which projects we can start at any point of time, and have a bit of a forward view. Apply this to 100 plus projects across about 16 teams. So it became really complex calculation and complex exercise to do if it's done manually, if it's trying to do it without having a live system that this whole ecosystem lives on. So why Smartsheet? I mean, I went through the need and the opportunity we have, but we found the Smartsheet is very collaborative and provides a collaborative platform. It's very easy to share access to content to employees or even with customers or some external entities. Easy to use. It was providing us a good rate of adoption and good adoption rate with our users. No matter what's their capability is or previous experience with project management tools. It has flexible licensing model with free collaborators, scalable, and a lot of other features that really helped us, as I can show you better in the solution walkthrough. The whole exercise, and it's across multiple phases, the main key benefits for us were increasing productivity. We have massive amount of resources that are allocated on projects operations. And the better we do this, the less disruptions we have to our project schedules, in better ability to be able to forecast the resources needed in 6 months or a year, enables us to increase the productivity of the whole project ecosystem. Faster project, the delivery of project benefits definitely, and we really suffered from a high cost of lost opportunity for any projects that we couldn't execute efficiently due to resourcing challenges. Any resources bottlenecks would be able to detect them early on, so you could deal with them. You could start balancing resources, balancing the load between different projects. In all of this, and once this starts working better, the staff satisfaction goes high because it's increased, because people don't like to be shifted between different projects without just because of lack of other types of resources, and also having greater predictability so they could know what they're going to be working on today, next week, in a month or 6 months. Of course, things change, but at least have this forward view that's 80 or 70% accurate. And definitely we now can improve the scheduling of new projects and know where to slot them in our schedules. Our wonderful project manager, along with the team, prepared this benefit map. This is really nice because it shows us how, through the different capability that we're implementing and the systems we're putting in place, this leads to business changes, which delivers stakeholder values measurable through some measures. And this whole stakeholder value would be contributing to final business outcomes. It's a bit of a, would be very interesting to any project geeks around here. I'm happy to go through more details on this later in the question and answer if anyone needs to. All right, so now with the solution walkthrough, I'll give you a quick overview of how we've implemented it, and that's how it is now. We add new features and we configure it more and work through it with the teams more every day. I mentioned we created like a project toolkit, and basically we have templates depending on the size of the project. So early on within the project life cycle, we have a grading exercise. Depending on this grade, we could be assigning a certain template. This is one of the templates. It includes everything that we think this type of project would need. So it has a project timeline, different like change log to log change requests and go through the approval cycle of change requests, project change requests, financial tracker, issues register, risk register, and a dashboard. And the dashboard that we've built in place would serve as a project homepage. It could replace project status reports, so project managers wouldn't need to prepare those before steering groups or steering committee meetings. It's there live, and all of our stakeholders could be having access to it at any point of time. Through dashboards as well, this enables us to link to external links. Our digital IT policies say that we have to host the documents in certain documents on our service in certain ways. So we link to those project documents in our repositories. There are other externals, like if we have Microsoft Teams, for instance, for this project, it could be linked through the dashboard. So it's very easy to add external links to dashboards. We also try to make it very simple for project team to add project issues, or to add more risks and change requests whenever needed through the use of forms. Within that project toolkit, some of the project managers prefer card views for if they're managing their project through Kanban boards or through swim lanes. And of course, we use automation at least for notification, but we have other use cases where people have used more sophisticated automation workflows from Smartsheet. Usually in each of those projects, once there is a preliminary plan, resources are being populated. And then this is synced in 10,000 feet. And that's the depth, and that's the, I'll show you a few of the features and reports and the data and insights we could get from 10,000 feet when this sync happens. We, for instance, once all of those projects are synced in 10,000 feet, we could see very clearly the different timelines and different assignments. Sorry, I've removed the names of the people working on those projects. This is live views from our systems, but basically shows you under each project how people are being distributed and how people are being assigned to those projects. But we could also, in part of what we've done, we needed to manage our business as usual activities. So we've put in standard projects, split them into phases, and those phases representing our products, help us track business as usual activities that are being spent onto specific products. And that helps us tracking overheads on our products. Those activities have been just sitting in a large number at the end of the year from overheads perspective. Now we could map them against products and understand more where those overheads should be routed even financially. We could flip the whole view rather than looking at projects and start looking at the resources. Yep, I know our guys are really busy. I know for the coming 3 months, we have a lot of challenges with the resources, and we've actually got a lot of resources working overtime and during weekends, but they're working very hard, and we're very appreciative for their hard work. But this is very easy to see, and so you could see where your reds are, and you could start looking at across teams. And if this is across teams, it's going to be very easy to switch tasks and switch project assignments from, let's say we have 35% here, we could switch some of the 118% tasks onto this person if we need to. This is just an overview. We could expand this, and you could see under one person, we've put in some standard allocation on those business as usual ones. So the purple ones, those are business as usual activities that they do. And the blue ones are actual projects. So you could see under any person and go a bit deeper into the details and see how their time is being allocated. Of course, the nice thing about the solution as well, that after you've allocated the time to the different resources, they file their timesheets through the same tool. So they say, it's like, yeah, I've been allocated those hours, I've worked them, or there are some changes. And they also have the ability to add new lines for items that haven't been assigned to them, but they work on that on them. So other business as usual activities that they've done. So it's easy to do that. And that gives us the ability to compare between the quoted time and the time that they actually spent and the cost that's actually occurred within the project. Some reports around utilization. We could, it's got a very powerful reporting engine, so we could slice and dice the data. We could see, say, by month, by discipline. So it gathers the whole team time under one line. Or we could see specific by specific people and then the total. Notice that, for instance, this process engineer, PV engineer, this is a sort of a space holder. So you could get projects and assign them to space holders or just a discipline, but not having a specific person assigned to them helps with the overall capacity and demand planning. Few other reports there, the timesheets, you could compare between the incurred and the scheduled and what's being planned. Other reports as well around the timesheets. Just my final slide here. One of the lessons learned is the resource manager role is quite important to the success of this. We usually rely a lot on the project manager, but also we need to develop and empower our resource managers or team leaders that manage the resources. Of course, technology by itself would not solve everything. We'd need to establish the roles, train people, make sure we manage change management well, drive adoption levels, as well as working on processes and improve them. It's a great opportunity to look at your process and improve it while implementing those systems. We had a very structured project team with a very experienced project manager, and we had an iterative rollout plan that we only roll the system out to one team at a time, get the lessons learned, and then set off for the next sprint. Financial integration was great, and our finance guys finally appreciated that for something. And they're really happy with the insights they're getting from that. So it's quite a good push for us in this project. The whole concept of using Smartsheet actually is that we're quite happy with the usability and quite happy with the user friendliness. And we prefer that over feature richness, where you put a Swiss knife in place or something that's got lots of features but not going to be used to the fullness of those features, as well as the prioritization across whenever we implement any such system, prioritization across your project portfolio is very important, because that would give them guidance on which areas to drive the resources to. And then finally, our teams really, we find that the teams that live on the system, they discard any paperwork, discard those spreadsheets and other means, and they fully manage the teams on the system, would work very well on such a platform. That's it from me today. Thanks, everyone. Hope I might spend a bit longer than anticipated, but I'm happy to receive questions, and possibly, Emily, back to you.
Thank you. Well, look, really enjoyed that, Michael, and I hope everyone enjoyed hearing a lot of detail there and really getting to see the grit of what Michael has done. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So, look, I'm going to hand over to Kathy Sparks, actually, for the Q&A, and we'll start to hear a couple of questions from the audience and get some answers as well. So, Kathy, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a customer success manager here at Smartsheet, and I'm fortunate to have Michael and Douglas Pharma as one of my customers. So thrilled to have you, Michael, speak to us today and present your use of Smartsheet and resource management. I have a couple of questions for you, and then I'm going to hand over to Catherine, who has a couple of questions, and then in the background, I've been taking note of everybody else's questions. So there's a couple of questions coming towards you, Michael. Are you ready?
Bring it on.
Okay, great. The first one that always comes to mind when I speak to you and Richard in particular, also at Douglas Pharma, is the use of resource management and tracking of business as usual. I have a lot of customers who don't track business as usual. It'd be interesting to know what's your reason behind the tracking of business as usual.
Thanks, Kathy. And it's quite an important point in our setup and for us. It might not be for other companies, but in a structure like what we've got, weak matrix organizations, most of our project resources work on as well on functional activities. And we really can't manage their time. You cannot manage resources without managing their time holistically. We want to know exactly how much time they're dedicated to business as usual, and that goes up and down, and then what's the available time that they could dedicate to projects. So it was important to have that kind of visibility on the other or business as usual activities. The other one is all help us really dissect this business as usual activities and trace them. Okay, is there opportunity for automation here? Is there costs that we should be directing to our products because they've been spending this time on supporting products or things like that? So it helps from a financial perspective as well. Those are the two main reasons why it was important for us to put the spotlight on business as usual.
Yeah, have there been some interesting findings when you're tracking BAU? Has it sort of shone a light on things that you weren't aware that people were spending so much time on?
Yeah. Well, in some aspects, actually, sometimes it's once you start tracking it, in some few examples, it could vanish or it could contract enormously. But in others as well, you could be spending, you could have an 80-20, you could be spending your overheads mostly on the less profitable products, for instance, if you're talking about a team that could support products. And it could provide you some good insights. Because you might as well add this, and if the product doesn't stack, you can just kill it and focus on the ones that bring you the better results.
Yeah, grand, thank you. And the other one I wanted to focus on, this is a really common question that we get asked, is around user adoption and engagement. You at Douglas Pharma created a very well set up and well structured rollout plan. What was your reason behind that, and how did it go? Or how's it going?
Well,
I know it's still underway.
Yeah, it's going well. Yeah, exactly. Well, we've, as I explained, we went through, rather than having a big bang approach and try to roll this out across hundreds of users and tens of areas, we wanted to start small with a proof of concept, make sure that things are working well. And look, the reason is we really, I think adoption is quite a key here. I mean, you could have all the best systems in the world and great processes, but if it's not adopted by people, it's not adhered to by people, no matter how much governance you might have, you're actually missing the point. So we really wanted to get that adoption level very high. And then once you have that solid ground or solid platform that you're building on, and that core team, it becomes a self-promoting system, self-promoting activity. They, from what they've seen, they're happy with it. Others actually become, oh, I want a piece of that. Could you? So we actually have now a lot of demand for all of the teams that we had planned later in the rollout plan. They want to come on board sooner than what we've promised them earlier. Right. So that's really good. Yeah, and it also gives us an opportunity to tweak the configuration and tweak process after each sprint.
Great. Yeah. So you get feedback in between.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Thanks very much. I hope the audience has listened to those, because they are commonly asked questions. Michael, I'm going to hand you over to Catherine. Catherine's got a couple of questions also on services. So, Catherine, are you ready?
I certainly am.
Great.
Thank you for that, Kathy, and Michael. Hi to everyone on the call today. I just very quickly, I'll do a quick introduction of myself. So my name is Catherine Beale. I'm a Solution Implementation Manager with Smartsheet. Have been with Smartsheet since we landed in APAC in January 2020 and used Smartsheet in a previous life as well. I've actually spent a good 12 plus years of my career in the health sector in continuous process improvement, business and people development, program, project management, and organizational change management. So, and I actually worked with Michael and his team in their implementation. So glad to be able to kind of share those thoughts with you today, and from the outlook of having that lived experience in the healthcare sector on the ground. That being said, sorry, didn't mean to derail too much, but Michael, so would love to kind of engage with you and ask some questions and share some thoughts with the audience about your engagement with professional services. So at what point did you kind of think and chat with your account manager about the need to engage with Smartsheet professional services?
It was very early on in the journey. So once we started talking to internally and planning that proof of concept, and we wanted to onboard the first team on, we said that, well, I mean, our understanding for 10,000 feet was very early on. We knew what we're doing in Smartsheet, but 10,000 feet was quite new for us. So we thought that we could get some help in translating some of the requirements and finding how we're going to implementing some of the use cases in 10,000 feet. That's quite helpful. And just a comment on this, I think it's great having that level of support there, because it depends on the company's internal maturity and capabilities. If you don't have to have your own BAs, you don't have to be experts in Smartsheet or 10,000 feet. If you have access to professional service, it's going to be probably more time efficient and more economic actually to use that service in the implementation. Thanks, Kath, very much for your help there.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that you kind of engaged an internal lead and you kind of took a phased approach to the implementation of that 10,000 feet integration as well. So can you share any thoughts around the value adds that you feel both your leads and yourself got from, I guess, either or, taking that phased approach to the integration, or engaging with services, having a lead and kind of subject matter experts internally engage with services?
Yeah, well, I mean, once you start talking to your internal stakeholders and you're implementing, there's usually new use cases or questions or things that and our PM, our project manager, will be bombarded with those, and the support that you could get from professional services is quite helpful, because you could have quick turnout for any answers, for any tips, and even it could be, well, no, this is not supported, but in some areas that we've raised with Smartsheet, this is not bad. You know what? It's a very good idea. We want to take it back to our product specialists, and they might implement it. We might add it as a new feature. So that was quite important that we have this second line of defense in front of any new requirements or areas that we couldn't help directly internally.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. Thanks for sharing that. So I definitely have experienced that internally from our perspective as well. You know, it's great to be able to work with customers and find your kind of sticking points, and you know what you're liking or finding challenging about a tool, and having our internal connections to be able to then go back to our product team, as you said, and provide that feedback for future development of the tool is a great value add. Thanks for sharing that.
Thanks, Carl.
Wonderful. Now, I know, Kathy, how are we going to divvy these up? We've got some questions from the panel, quite a few in there.
We do have. Since you've been asking some, Catherine, I'll jump in so you can get up to date with what's been asked. Michael, And I'm not sure how much time we've got left for Q&A. If somebody could just let us know, that would be great. Thank you. But I'm going to fire away anyway. Michael, Phil asked a question. He wanted to know, did you look at using resource view in Smartsheet before going to the expense of 10,000 feet or resource management? You did?
Yeah,
okay,
I mean,
great.
and that's what I call the legacy. I'm not sure if it's legacy or not, but it's a legacy resource view in Smartsheet. It helped us a bit, but it didn't provide us the full functionality we needed. There's a lot more you could do in 10,000 feet. Especially when you add the reporting as well as the recording timesheets and comparing it with quotes. It's quite a but it did help us early on, but we grew out of it very quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of a high level fine, but you need a finite detail, don't you? So yeah, it's an interesting. There's quite a difference between the two for sure. So Phil, maybe have a look at 10,000 feet if you haven't already. And then another question, I might as well jump in there, Michael. Saeed has asked if there are 3 things that you could have done better when you were implementing 10,000 feet, what would they be? Now, if you can't think of 3, maybe at least come up with 1 or 2.
Well, there's a lot of things, and that's why we have this phased approach. There's usually a lot of lessons learned that we, when we do a retrospective analysis of how that last sprint went, we take those learnings forward with the next ones and usually find new cases and new, slightly new requirements as well to respond to. The one I would think of, we probably should have paid more attention to the prioritization process and the escalation process. So once you, okay, I'll explain a bit more. I mean, once you have this amount of visibility in the hands of the PM, project managers and resource managers, you get a lot of escalations because the conflicts are very clear, and you could detect those conflicts in the first, for the next 6 months if you run those models. So I think one of the things is having your governance processes rechecked and adapted for high level of escalations or high number of escalations they're going to be getting early on, as well as having a transparency around project priorities and putting this in 10,000 feet. So we ended up putting the priority score of those projects in 10,000 feet and give our resource managers an ability to map resources based on priority first until we get an escalation, and then we deal with those conflicts.
Okay.
So that was my tip. I'm not sure if I've explained it well, but yeah.
No, that made sense. Thank you. Catherine, did you have some questions, or shall I ask one more?
I think we've got time for just one more, Kathy, and then we'll jump to the next piece. All
right, Catherine, would you like to ask one?
Sure. I've just looking at some questions in the panel. There's one question asking around tracking down to the hours level of detail, time tracking around that. So that question was from Sammy Murray. This is, Michael, perhaps you could talk about this particular level or granularity of level that you track in your time in 10,000 feet, and then I could perhaps type an answer that speaks to some of the features of the tool separately in there.
Yeah. So the assignment is different than tracking. I mean, they're 2 different areas. So you could assign, say, one person, or you'd need, for instance, we'd need engineering resources on a project. And through the project manager will sit with the resource manager and try to plan, okay, those are the deliverables we need. So you'd need, say, an average of 100 hours of an engineer on this project, but then you might need those 100 hours over 10 weeks, okay? And this, you could put it this way in 10,000 feet. So you don't have to plan when those 100 hours would be spent exactly within those 2 weeks. So week 1, 2 hours, and then week 2, 40 hours, and so forth. No, you could put 100 hours across 10 weeks, and then that resource is booked for 100 hours across the 10 weeks, or, okay? When the resource or when the person is recording their timesheets on a daily basis, That's the best practice, right? I mean, they book it daily, submit it weekly. That's what they taught us. Daily basis, they put in what they worked on. So today I gave 4 hours to this project. They put those 4 hours. So it doesn't have, you don't have to book resources by the hour on for 6 months. It doesn't work this way. But then overall, when you have all of the project demand is mapped in this fashion, you would look at that resource, whether you book 10 hours, 100 hours in 10 weeks, or started booking some slots for vacations or slots for training, things like that. It's going to work out, and it's all going to be showing from a utilization perspective. I also, we look at utilization over a period of time. I mean, sometimes our resources might look like they're 150% booked on a single day or a single week, but then if you look over a month, as long as it normalizes, that's for the type of business we're running, that works for us. Maybe for, I'm not sure if they're legal offices, they're going to be tracking by 6 minutes or something. I mean, that may be a different criteria. That's not about business. Not yet. We haven't covered the legal department yet, and I hope they're doing well. If they're joining us, please don't punish me.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Michael, for sharing. I'm sure there's plenty more questions in the chat, and we will continue to get to those. But thank you very much for sharing all of your thoughts.
Thanks,
Emily,
team.
back over to
It's
you.
a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, agreed. Thank you, Michael. Really enjoying that. Loving to hear you get into the grit and a little bit more Q&A with the audience. So thank you so much. And now what we're going to do is we shall hand over to Tina Gassane, who is a sales engineer, who's going to demo the 10,000-foot resource management tool. So over to you, Tina.
Thank you, Emily. Can I have the screen share, guys? Guys, I need a screen share, please.
Okay, just press the screen share button and that'll pick it up.
All right. Thank you, Emily.
Welcome.
Just want to make sure, can everybody see my screen on 10,000 feet? Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Tina Gassane, and I'm one of the commercial sales engineer with Smartsheet. And I was really fortunate to be involved with Douglas Pharma's journey when they were making this decision and finding the right resource management solution for their organization. So really excited to present to all of you today about 10,000 feet and how it can help you bring stronger teams leading to a more successful projects. So as you can see over here, you're looking at the 10,000 feet as a solution. The first thing when we're talking about 10,000 feet is obviously we want to talk about the resources. So this is a resource management screen over here that helps you list all your resources along with the skill sets. Now, as you can see, every organization is different and people have different skill sets. Every organization, the kind of information that you want to track against your resources could be different. So Smartsheet resource management or 10,000 feet gives you that ability to define these custom fields against people. So for example, if you're a professional services organization, you might want to record the different verticals that your resources are working in, versus if you're in a construction industry and using 10,000 feet for your resource management, you might want to have certain other fields which are very specific to your industries. And as you can see with these list of resources, if when you're looking at this entire list, if you want to filter down by, say, a particular discipline, it is as simple as clicking and dissecting the data, making it very easy to consume. So once we have defined the list of people, the next thing obviously we want to talk about is our projects. So what are our projects? Who's our client? Any information around the start date and end date of the project. One of the most important fields that you're looking at over here is the information about a project type. As you can see, a lot of my projects are defined as confirmed, tentative, and further down, there are a few that are marked as internal. The reason I call that it's an important field is because it helps us identify whether these projects are confirmed and they are, we are going to be executing or proceeding with them. But a lot of times we want to do forecasting for our resources. Say we have a project starting in 2 months' time, and we want to be able to see, do we have the right skill set available? Do we have enough resources available in order to successfully execute that project? So marking that project as tentative really helps when we are looking at people's availability and the schedule. And internal is mainly to identify, as Michael was highlighting, some of the BAU activities, right? In addition to projects, people are always involved in some BAU activities. So those activities can be marked as internal. And why this confirmed internal and tentative is important is when we are looking at the schedules, just by quickly looking at it, those colors helps us identify on what are the different projects that my resources are working on, what their availability is. Is that a confirmed versus a tentative versus an internal project? And even highlights when people are on vacation, like over here for Brianna. In addition to this, what you're also seeing are these some red indications on those on the screen. And that's an important information that you're really looking for when you're talking about resource and capacity planning. So in this example over here, when I'm looking at Brianna's schedule, it very quickly tells me that Brianna is going on a vacation for these 2 weeks. So obviously she is not available. And hence the system shows that she's working over her capacity. So then the system gives us that flexibility to make those important decisions that we want to make it at that time. So it helps us say, for a Sydney office reallocation project, we can choose to say, since Brianna would not be available for the entire duration of the project, it makes sense that we reassign it to somebody who is available. And as we choose to reassign, the system looks at certain filter criteria and helps us find the matching resources. It also gives us the fixed flexibility to change that criteria. So let's say if I'm looking for somebody, a junior person in a technology discipline, it can identify who those people are, and I can simply reallocate the work to those individuals. Alternatively, if somebody is not available or overbooked, the system also allows us to maybe change or push the project deadlines, right? So what that helps is, and now if we are looking at Brianna's schedule, we can see there are periods where she's available, she's not working over her capacity, and the team is being very well utilized. But how do we actually get to this phase where we are how do we allocate people, right? So let's go back into our projects and pick up one of the projects that we have over here. So I have this AGM launch project, and say I have the project starting somewhere from the mid of September until going all the way into November. As soon as I'm ready to allocate resources, it is as simple as coming into my project schedule. I can either add a phase into the schedule. Say I want to add some analysis phases. I can define how long those are going to be, or I can simply add team members. So I can see I want to add Bree, for example, and I also want to add, say, Diana. I can define what days or what's the duration I want them to be. I can even choose what percentage of time they would need to be allocating. So do we want them 50% of time on the project or 100% of the time on the project? Can all be defined over here. And I can simply update it. Now, the system, a lot of times, instead of knowing who those people are, we know what skill set we would be needing. We not necessarily know whether it's going to be myself, Michael, or whoever, but I know, say, for example, I would be needing a developer in a certain phase or a part of the project. So the system gives us the ability to add these placeholders, and we can define what those placeholders are and when do we need them in the project. So here very quickly, with the click of a few buttons, I have identified the different phases, I've added people in the projects, and I've also added a placeholder because I don't know who is going to be available in the mid of October. And finally, when I go back into my schedule, and instead of looking at everybody's schedule, I can then simply filter my project to say, show me only my project, the one that I was looking at, right? And it just shows me who are those people who are there and who will be working on it. In addition to looking at the data from people perspective, sometimes I can even pivot the data, kind of take that noise away and see what is the utilization of my teams across the business. So as you're looking over here, very quickly, you see, a lot of time people are very well allocated. Certain percentage of their time is being spent working on different projects. Definitely, there are people who are working over their capacity, which highlights that we need to reallocate and either find new people in their role, find maybe contractors, or maybe just better distribute their work. But that system really allows that prioritization, reprioritization, reallocation, really simple and convenient. And the way up until now, as we are looking at all these information by project or by people, we can even pivot the data to see more by projects so that we are not looking at everyone, and we can look at the information more by projects in terms of its start date, end date, and what that looks like. Now, we have obviously looked at, the information about our resources, about our projects, how we add people to the projects, their scheduling. And really, when the scheduling is done, we want people to start actually recording the time against it, just so that in future, we are making sure we are giving enough time to people to actually execute or do the job, right? So then we come to our time tracking section, which helps us track our time against the work that people are doing, right? So as you can see here, for the week of September 28th, I have been scheduled for these 2 projects that I've been spending time on. I can simply come here, either confirm the time that I have spent, or if I have spent any more time than I was meant to, I can even manually enter with some additional notes. Quite often, I might be spending some time on things other than that what I've been scheduled for. So system also gives me that flexibility to record my timesheets against the projects that I would have not been scheduled for, but I have kind of spent some extra time to make sure, the time's being recorded accurately and correctly. And these, of course, can then be sent for approval. We can do the similar things to track expenses as well, in addition to time, so that when we are looking at our projects, we can kind of calculate and identify the profitability and track how the projects are going if we have budgets allocated towards these projects. Now, obviously, we have stored a lot of information. We have talked about information about our people, about projects, scheduling, time tracking. So as you can see, the system is holding a lot of information. So what becomes really interesting then is the analytics section. Because the system has such meaningful information, we want to make sure we're making the best use out of it. So we can then help build these reports that Michael was showing you earlier about maybe the utilization reports or the time and fees, expenses, whatever that might be and whatever that's important for your business. As an example, just really quickly, let's just look at a utilization report. So let's say I have a project that's starting in 30 days or a 60 days time frame, and I want to see what is the utilization of my staff over the next 60 days. I can maybe group it by discipline, so to show me across the entire organization. And as you can see here, just by clicking on Run's report, it has shown me all the different disciplines within my organization and what that utilization is looking like, and highlights every place where the utilization is more than what the target utilization is supposed to be. So then very quickly, I can again pivot the data, and instead of looking at everyone, say if I want to look at only my project managers, I can come here and I can say, show me only the data for project managers, because I want to see, is the demand high during a particular time frame, or is it just across the year? So I want to now say by this year, and I want to say group it by the week. So I'm again taking that same data set and just pivoting to kind of make it more meaningful for my understanding. And as I can see here, I can see from my reports all across for the rest of the year, there's a high demand of project managers, which obviously either means that we have taken on more projects, or we need to just go and hire more project managers. So making that information very easy to consume and understand. And again, for these reports, if these are the reports that you always come back to, run it on a weekly, monthly basis, we can always save these reports into a dashboard so that you can come back every time, and it always shows you the most current and the accurate information about your system. Now, I have touched at a very high level about our resource management solution. There is a lot more to it, right? But just in the interest of time, we'll be just covering the main section. The one extra bit that I wanted to share with you today is also about the integration. Now, when we're talking about resource management, obviously our resources are a part of some projects that they're doing, right? And when we have these projects, we have detailed project plans also drawn somewhere. The way Smartsheet 10,000 resource management solution works is it focuses more on the resources, the utilization and capacity, and help us identify the best people for the jobs. But then we also have, say, as an example of project plans, which are more detailed, broken down to the task level, time, days, time, and the amount of time people will be spending. So here is just an example of a project plan. So now that I have my projects and I have my resources allocated to these projects, how do I now allocate these resources against these individual tasks, right? And because Smartsheet and 10,000 feet have a native integration, it makes this process really simple. Coupled together, the organization can kind of stay and have a view, a holistic view of how the project is tracking, both in terms of time and resources and everything with this native integration that is here. And in order to connect the two, it is as simple as clicking on this button and saying, do we want to create a new project in 10,000 feet? Or do we want to create an existing or connect to an existing project in 10,000 feet? And what that means is if I have already done my resource and capacity planning, then I can connect to the project that is already existing. So there is no right or a wrong way. Every organization does it differently. The good thing is Smartsheet supports both. So you can either take a more bottom-up approach where you can put your resources against the individual task, push that information into 10,000 feet and get a view of how your resources availability and utilization is. Or alternatively, take a more top-down approach where we have planned for your resources and now we'll allocate the tasks. Either way is a support. So let's look at how we can do that. So I have my project here and I can simply say connect. And as I say connect, as you can see, all the resources that I had added in my 10,000 feet, I can see them on the right-hand panel. Now, it is just a matter of going and saying, okay, these are the 3 allocated resources. Maybe I want Bree to be added here and Bree to be doing the next task as well. And then maybe for the development is where I need Diana. And as you can see here, the system is now, because of the integration, the system is now saying, do we want to update 10,000 feet? What that means is it takes the information about the dates, about what percentage of allocation work it will, and can simply update 10,000 feet. The good thing is we are not just restricted to the resources that have been allocated to us in 10,000 feet. Say, for example, I want to now allocate myself as well. I can simply come here and add more people, and then the system will give us an ability to add any new resources that it has identified, add it back into 10,000 feet, which I can add it as well. And if I were now to go back into 10,000 feet, go into my project and bring up my project, I can see that I have my people who I had allocated, and I also have my placeholder, which I can then decide and see who I want to allocate to. So as you can see here, 10,000 feet is a very simple, yet a very powerful tool that makes it easy to build the best teams for the job, helps keep the projects on schedules and budgets on track, and really confidently helps you forecast the business needs with the real-time reporting.
Wonderful.
Again,
oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just concluding to saying, just thank you everyone for listening. I really hope you found this presentation useful. As I said, I've shown you a very high level overview of Smartsheet's resource management solution today. But if you would like to learn more and see how it could benefit your teams, please feel free to reach out to your account team. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Tina. Audience, I hope that you enjoyed that run through and a little bit of a flavour for what resource management 10,000 feet can do for you. and also Michael's example. So look, we are at the end. I know we've gone a little bit over time, so thank you to those who have stayed around to keep listening. Look, please do give a quick thumbs up in the reactions button if you like today's session. We do love to hear from you. And again, if you're brand new to Smartsheet, don't forget we've got our new users user group, which is a fantastic event to get some preliminary information. We've also got a number of APAC user groups. Again, a plug there, we did mention them earlier, but do feel free to reach out to your account team for details. If you'd like to present at a user group in future, we would love to hear from you. So again, reach out to your account team to discuss that. And then look, if you need any more information, whether it be on professional services or anything you've heard today, again, please reach out to any of the emails listed there. Okay, and look, a reminder, we will be sharing a recording of today's session after today's event, and there's a quick survey as well, so please send your feedback. Again, thank you so much to Michael for joining. Thanks to the audience for coming on. Hope you've really attended it. We've really enjoyed having you here today. So thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.